Good morning and welcome to this week's episode of the Last Night's Game podcast. When you picture an Olympic athlete, you probably imagine someone training full time, sponsored, supported, and laser focused on their sport because that's what we see on TV. But what if I told you that Olympic medalists, one of them is a realtor, another is a dentist, one's a trained athlete, and the other is a manufacturing engineer? We also are going to talk a little bit today about one who's a birthday party clown. Turns out a lot of Olympians have something we don't expect, and that's a day job. So today we're talking about what Olympic athletes actually do when they're not training for the biggest stage in sports. And here to join me to talk all about it is my favorite co-host, favorite brother, Scott. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. And we're here to talk about, like you said, these American heroes. Every 4 years, we get to see them compete at the highest levels. But what do they do within that 4 years to support themselves and survive, to be able to train, to go out there and win gold medals and, defeat these other countries?
And
It's really fascinating.
it really is. And when you think about it, and we were kind of talking about it, we're getting ready to roll into the Paralympics. You're watching these people up here on the medal stands, and they are so emotional because what they have given, especially if they have families too, on top of everything else, what their families have sacrificed, but what they have sacrificed to make it to where they are, the long hours in the gym, but also the long hours as a birthday party clown or working at a coffee shop, whatever that is, and trying to always maintain just enough to make sure that you can get the chance to do what you want to do. And so there's so much emotion wrapped up in because there's such a sacrifice and so much commitment that has to go into it. And it's pretty incredible.
And it is. And we'll talk about the financial incentive of winning a medal. So there's also that tax-free money. So that is also very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like if you watch and you hear, not everyone's story in Hollywood is this way, but when you watch like the Grammys, the Oscars, or any of those, the Emmys, and you see that these people have worked 5 server jobs in order to pay the bills, to pay their rent, in order to keep going to auditions and skipping auditions for work or skipping work for auditions. And you're looking at it's a similar model of the
Mhm.
sacrifice, and it's very much the American way, right? We'll talk about it in a second, but it's very much the American way to really give it your all and go all in and sacrifice everything in order to make your dream come true. So I guess before we dive in, because I don't want to go too far into it, but if we want to fire up a sports fan this week, let's talk about it.
Financial reality of being an Olympian in the United States.
I mean, we kind of just alluded to it because as Americans, we're so used to going at it alone, making things happen, sacrificing what we need to do and what we need to like, to make all the things happen. And that's just how we operate as Americans, for better or for worse, for our mental health. But the US is one of the few countries that doesn't directly fund its US Olympic athletes through the government.
It's right about 75 to 85% of funding is donations and fundraising. So there's really not much support from the government into the Olympic program, which is, I mean, so we're so dominant in winter and summer. It's kind of amazing to believe that only 20% is supplemented pretty much.
I mean, it's one of those things too, and I really try to think about this from this perspective. You watch a Super Bowl commercial, they're doing it to get eyeballs. But if you're watching the Olympics, and I'm assuming I don't know the intricacies of like sponsoring NBC, but you have like, let's say Visa, the official card
Hmm.
of the US Olympic and Paralympic teams. So you look at that, and to me, that makes me think, okay, I'm here and maybe I'll go get a Visa instead of a MasterCard because they're doing something that's really it's eyeballs, and yes, it's great viewership numbers, which the Olympics had this year. But also these companies are helping our athletes make it to the games. There were so many you look at the Army ran a bunch of commercials. They have a system in place that funds Olympic training for people who then serve in the military and so or serve in the Army. And so you saw that I think there's a couple people in bobsled
Hmm.
that were in that program, and it's like an elite athlete program. So it's really interesting when you look at how that all comes together. But it's expensive. And the medal bonuses are great, but when you're looking at like what was you have a 2024 report estimated that athletes spend around 12,000 a year just to compete. That's not the training, the travel, the equipment, the coaching, the ice time. That's purely like just competition. I mean, it's not some of that other stuff that's so huge. And they're not walking away with a lot of money. And I think $12,000 seems real cheap, in all
It
fairness.
does, especially like how much it costs for ice time and things like that with skating and playing hockey and equipment. So that number does seem a little bit low. And even if you win a medal, you divide that amount by 4 years, like that barely covers it.
Right. So talk to us about the medal bonuses real quick.
All right. Team USA, non-taxable money, gold 37,500, silver 22,500, and bronze 15,000.
And if I remember correctly, it wasn't that long ago that they passed it to be tax-free
Hmm.
money. Like, it had to go through to be a bill to not tax this money, because I can't, and it wasn't that long ago. It's like, wait, we were giving these athletes not a ton of money,
Hmm.
but also they have to win, I get that too, but
Yeah.
we're taxing it?
Yeah, that seems a little ridiculous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So they did recently, within the past few years, change that.
Mhm.
Thank goodness. Or
Yeah,
else
thank
it's like,
goodness.
why even bother?
Well, and it's interesting, and you and I were talking a little bit about this ahead of time. Not everyone is a Lindsey Vonn who earned
No.
about $8 million, some of the estimates say, for the Olympics, and that's not include that was pre accident and all of those things. Chloe Kim, snowboarder, about $4 million. And we were kind of talking about, like, Lindsey Vonn is a phenomenal skier, don't get me wrong, but she is
Hmm.
not the most decorated or most accomplished alpine skier that even skied in this Olympics. Michaela Schifrin is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even for her own country, yeah, Michaela Schifrin has already surpassed her by a lot as far as wins go. So Lindsey Vohn's been, I mean, she's been doing it for so long that she's got such a brand that she's built up very strategically, I believe,
Yeah, do you think
to get to this point. So, I mean, she had a very good marketing team throughout her career, I would say.
do you think any of that, and I'm trying to think back that far, she and Tiger Woods were an item for quite a while. I wonder how much she learned from him in terms of sponsorships and promotions, and that's his world. He does that on a daily basis. And that
Yeah.
obviously raised her visibility in the non-ski market, in the
Hmm.
non-Olympic market, but also I'm curious how much just she learned, and she would probably never admit it, but like how much she's learned from him too.
Very good question. And obviously, the relationship didn't work out, but maybe she got like her master's degree in marketing from Tiger, who's arguably one of the best marketed golfers, or golfers, even athletes ever, with his Sunday red, traditional shirt. And yeah, so maybe she's maybe not the greatest terms with Tiger, but at least she got the
Maybe she got
marketing.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like, I mean, you just by being around that, you would
Hmm.
learn. I mean, this man went from being, like, the best to a total hot mess, to back
Hmm.
to the best, to,
Yes.
like, another accident, to back so, I mean, he's always in the conversation still to this day.
And he's still the most talked about golfer, despite not being, being able to physically compete or win in quite a while. So you might be very smart at this point.
I don't know, it just dawned on me, and I was like, "That's kinda
Yeah.
interesting." So, now if you don't have a team to cheer for in the Paralympics or when it comes to the Olympics in general, who should you cheer for?
Odd jobs aren't just for your teenage years.
It's true, some of these we've already kind of alluded to some of these. I have definitely I was a birthday party coordinator. I wasn't a birthday party clown, but a birthday party coordinator, but I was also not an like a Olympic hopeful. I was a high school student.
And no, is there an Olympics for clowns?
I'm
Do you
sure
know?
there is. Rodeo clowns, no?
Yeah, actually, I think you're right. Maybe.
There's gotta be something.
So there is a future for, birthday clowns that want to aspire to become professionals.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at it was boxer Morel McCain, she talked about, so obviously it's Summer Olympics, but she talked about how she just worked an odd rotation of jobs while chasing her Olympic dream. Daycare supervisor, mailroom worker, birthday party clown. I mean, it goes back to allude to that same concept you see
Hmm.
in Hollywood and in music of you do all these odd jobs and you do everything you can to just try to make it.
You do, and there's a astounding list of these people, like skeleton racer Austin Florian, manufacturing engineer. So we've gone from clowns to people, that have big degrees and, high stress jobs that are training on the side as well.
And the US curling team has a
Hmm.
very prolific plethora a plethora of jobs, I guess is the word I'm saying.
Hmm.
They're balancing 2 full-time jobs, obviously training for the Olympics and then their other full-time job. And look no further than the silver medal winning mixed doubles duo of the Coreys.
Yes, yeah, Corey Dropkin, silver mixed curling 2026, which was stunning for America. He's a full time realtor, And then Corey Thiessen, who works chemical lab technician, testing wastewater in Minnesota. So every time you drink water in Minnesota, you can thank your Olympians that you're not getting sick. So they're all over the place doing everything you could ever imagine. And curler Tara Peterson, even a licensed dentist.
See, that made me think that the licensed dentist,
Hmm.
you, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, it's your own, hopefully your own practice that you can figure things out. But do you remember it was a couple of World Cups ago, the Iceland men's team, their head coach was a dentist.
Yeah, it was their soccer team. I think it was
Yeah,
the World Cup.
I think it was World Cup. Yeah,
Yeah,
when
they
Team
all have day
Iceland like
jobs.
made it.
Yeah. So even everyone all over the place, when you kind of rise from the bottom and make a quick ascent, you're still a dentist or anything.
You still have to pay your bills. Like at
Still
end
have
of
to
the
pay your
day.
bills. They don't stop, unfortunately.
And I found this really interesting stat when I was talking about bills. This was artistic swimmer Anita Alvarez, which once again a
Yeah.
summer sport. But she worked at a sporting goods store in between, and she was receiving the $250 monthly Team USA stipend, which later increased for her to about $1,900 a month. Depending on where you live, $1,900 a month, depending on your sport, where are you training? Where are you like you're if you're training in an alpine sport, you're not living in like the middle of nowhere. I mean,
No,
maybe if you're
that's
Jordan Stoltz, at some point, he probably still has to go to Colorado Springs or whatever to train, but, I
mhm.
mean, we're just looking at the pure room and board. $1,900 a
Yeah.
month is nothing.
$250 is certainly not paying for anything.
I mean, I was looking like, I looked at that stat, I'm like, "Is this 1930?" I'm just checking to see, because
That's
$250 is nothing.
no,
That's not even that can't even be your food bill anymore hardly, and gas.
not at all. No. So just remember that when they're flying down the mountains at 90 miles an hour and
Yeah, in spandex and
risking every body part and limb,
for their passion.
that's just purely for passion.
Yeah, and then we have 2 Olympians, which I thought was interesting, and I think alpine skier Ryan Cochran
Mhm.
Siegel, he won the Olympic silver, I think was that last Olympics? But he, works at his family's maple syrup farm, because I remember this story from before,
In
and I thought,
Vermont, yeah.
"What a fun" when I go to Vermont this year, I'm gonna have to figure out what his family's maple syrup farm is.
Okay, we'll get our top researcher on that,
Mhm,
and you can head over there to support an Olympian. And also studying engineering at the University of Vermont, so there's not much free time, I don't think, outside of skiing, studying, and maple syruping.
maple syrup.
Yeah.
And then you have Keely Cashman, who's a skier. She works at as a barista at her family's coffee shop, and you just to have a shift, like, you couldn't even probably have, like, a systematic regular shift. I mean, I look at any athletes that we're kinda talking about. I mean, we looked at Kurt Warner way back when he was training, he was in the Canadian Football League and training to hopefully get picked for the NFL. He was stocking shelves at a grocery store at night to make money for
Mhm.
his family, and you look at minor league baseball players who in the off season, because they only get paid for the 8 or 9 months they play baseball, and
And
that's not a lot in
it's
general.
barely to live anyways as well.
So they're picking up odd jobs in construction and real estate and those kinds of things as well, just to piece it all together. But we don't see that behind
No.
the scenes. We see, the Shohei Otanis of the world making millions and millions of dollars, or we see a Lindsey Vaughn who's doing really well, making good money. Maybe not doing really well right now with her fractured leg, which
Mhm.
those X-ray images are just insane. But you look at that and like, I didn't even think about this, but, like, what about her medical cost? What happens who paid for the 4 surgeries she had? Because no one wants to insure her. Who paid for the
No.
4 surgeries she had in Italy and then to get probably medevaced home?
Yeah, Visa, I guess.
Maybe. I hope that someone let her use the plane, Nike
Mhm.
or she's Under Armour, maybe? I don't remember.
She was at point.
She was at one point, so sorry, Nike or Under Armour. We don't remember.
Sorry.
But, I mean, even internationally, you're still looking at athletes juggling their careers. We had Dr. Regina Martinez, who represented Mexico. She's an ER doctor in Miami, but she's balancing being an ER doctor with training for cross-country skiing, and I wanna throw out that in Miami.
and she's from Mexico. So this is quite the. I don't know where you're training cross country skiing in Miami. If they have an indoor facility or how that works.
I don't know, but I did read that she got into cross country skiing because she was lonely and had seasonal depression when she was going to school in Minnesota, and so she wanted to get outside, and that helped.
That explains it. Okay.
And she's developed when she was in Miami, she developed, beyond her training and her residency and her 24-hour shifts, she made a dog walking business so she could earn enough money to then do training trips to places. I mean, it's incredible the gumption and the grit that these athletes have outside of just their physical ability to do stuff.
That's, I mean, the mental fortitude, unbelievable. I certainly don't possess that.
Right.
And
Now,
can I make one more point? Just
please.
real quick. I just thought of this. I mean, we have that spectrum of these athletes working odd jobs. But then we had the NHL players who, do make millions, fight as hard as they could to go to the Olympics, to pause their season, to play for barely nothing, and just to represent their country. I mean, I don't know. I just thought that that's interesting too, because they fought for the right to actually play and to risk. And that's one of the most obviously dangerous sports we have. So they're risking their entire careers in the
Yeah.
NHL to go play for their country.
That's really a very interesting point. They had to fight to get there
Yes.
in a different way than
Yes.
the other athletes, and they're making the money, but they're also putting all that money on the
Hmm.
line to go play
Yeah.
for your country because if they get hurt, seriously, they could have a career-ending injury.
Yeah. And we saw it with Canada's captain, Sidney Crosby, got hurt
Yeah,
and
he
missed,
did.
and he's still hurt. So he sacrificed everything basically for, he's older, and but it was worth it to play for his country.
Yeah, and then you have Jack Hughes, who still has no front teeth from the
No,
US Olympic team.
and I don't think that gets better as you play more hockey.
No. I did realize that we actually noticed, not to sidetrack us too much, but
Hmm.
when they did the gold medal ceremony for the women, they all
Hmm.
had these beautiful, great, perfect teeth, and then the men obviously don't.
Hmm.
And we were talking about it, and my husband was like, "Well, look at their masks." The women wear a
Yeah.
full, like, almost like a football mask,
Yes.
a football, like, helmet situation, and the men do not. And I was like, "Well, it
That's
seems
why
like a better
women.
way to keep a stick out of your face."
Yeah, I think that's another example of women being smarter than men.
Maybe that's it.
Yes.
Now, it's not all bad news. So I want this go-to conversation starter with Olympic and Paralympic fans. Give us something good.
There's big changes coming financially.
Okay, talk to me about what that means.
So we have the largest ever donation to the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Foundation, $100 million. So it's roughly going to be around what 200,000 per athlete for
Right.
each Olympic Games they compete in. So that's just a donation from a very generous individual.
So this is from Ross Stevens, the founder and CEO of Stone Ridge Holdings Group, a financial firm that focuses on non-traditional investment options like crypto and
Hmm.
fine art. But what's really interesting is that this is, like you said, this should sustain them through around 2032 games. And every
Hmm.
US Olympian and Paralympian will receive $200,000 in financial benefits for each game.
Hmm.
And that looks like $100,000 to live that eligible athletes, which I'm assuming is the curling team and not the Lindsey Vonn, will be able to access this award for 20 years after their qualifying games or at age 45, whichever is later. And the grant is paid over the course of 4 years and can be used for any purposes such as starting a business or supporting their families, which I think is really, really cool.
Hmm. And I mean, if they compete in multiple Olympics, it's not just a one-time thing. So if you compete in 4 Olympics, you're getting that payment every single Olympic
Right, it's
game. So
compounding, yeah.
that's for someone who's, $250 stipend from Team USA. That's a significant increase. So there's big changes coming, which, will hopefully be able to allow more athletes who want to compete but just can't financially do it. Give them the option. We could have another superstar and then they can become Lindsey Vonn or Chloe Kim.
Right, I think the barrier to entry is so huge
Hmm.
on some of these sports that you have excellent athletes who just can't afford to get into alpine skiing or don't have
Hmm.
the access to it. So if this provides opportunities for those who don't have the family syrup farm to rely on or any of those things, they have an opportunity to go ahead and at least have a future.
Yes.
Because most of these athletes are like any professional athlete, are done by like 29, 30 years old.
Yeah, and especially with injuries, and then once you're done, do you become a cocaine kingpin dealer? We don't know.
Like, I mean, Ryan Wedding already has that covered. If you
Yeah,
missed
so
that
the
podcast, tune into that one.
yeah, so don't go that route. But
No.
there's other routes now that they don't have to do that.
I bet that disqualifies you from your $200,000
Most
in
likely, yeah.
financial benefits,
Yeah, federal charges probably.
federal murder charges.
Yeah,
Might just
that'll
not
do
work
it.
out so well. Well, thanks for sharing with us today all the insights into what our Olympians and Paralympians do for their day jobs. And next time you're watching the Olympics or Paralympics, remember that these athletes aren't just competitors. They're dentists, engineers, they're your baristas. So tip your baristas, scientists, business owners, and sometimes even birthday clowns. They're chasing Olympic dreams while balancing their real life, which might make those achievements and those tears on the medal stands even more impressive. And that's the sports news you'll want to spill.